Dae-ho Kim sat on the cold metal floor of his cell and stared at the gray walls around him. The space was small and dark, with only a thin light strip that buzzed quietly above his head. He had been in this place for 3 months now, and every day felt the same. Wake up, eat the strange alien food that tasted like dirt, work in the mining tunnels, then come back to this cell. He was not supposed to be here. 3 months ago, he was Captain Dae-ho Kim of Earth's Special Forces. He led a team of 12 soldiers, and they were good at what they did. They fought hard when the aliens came to Earth. They fought until their weapons ran out, and their friends fell around them. Dae-ho was one of the last to be captured, and he still remembered the day clearly. The aliens had big ships and strange weapons that could stop a man where he stood. They came from the stars and said they were bringing peace to the galaxy. But their peace meant that humans would work for them forever. Earth was now just another planet in their collection, and humans were just another species to use for labor. Dae-ho heard footsteps in the hallway outside his cell. The sound was soft and careful, not like the heavy boots of the alien guards. He looked up and saw Yuna Park walking past his cell. She was carrying a small bag with medical supplies. Yuna had been a doctor on Earth before the invasion. Now she worked in the medical bay of this prison station, taking care of injured human workers. "Yuna," Dae-ho called out quietly. She stopped and looked around to make sure no guards were watching. Then she came closer to his cell. Her face looked tired and worried. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her hands shook a little when she moved. "How are you feeling today?" she asked in a whisper. "Same as always," Dae-ho replied. "Angry," Yuna nodded. She understood. All the humans here felt angry. They had been free people with families and homes and dreams. Now they were prisoners who worked in dangerous places for aliens who saw them as nothing more than tools. "I heard something today," Yuna said. She looked around again to make sure they were alone. "The guards were talking about tomorrow. They are planning something special." Dae-ho felt his stomach tighten. Special usually meant bad news for humans. The aliens liked to make examples of prisoners who caused trouble. They would hurt one person to scare the others into being quiet and obedient. "What kind of special?" he asked. "A fight," Yuna said. "In the arena. They want to show the Galactic Council something. They are bringing important people from other worlds to watch." The arena was a place Dae-ho had heard about but never seen. It was where aliens fought each other for entertainment. Sometimes they forced prisoners to fight too, but usually those prisoners never came back to their cells. The aliens thought it was funny to watch weak species try to survive against strong ones. "Who do they want to fight?" Dae-ho asked, though he already had a bad feeling about the answer. "You," Yuna said. "They picked you." Dae-ho closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He was not surprised. The guards had been watching him for weeks. They knew he had been a soldier on Earth. They knew he was stronger than most of the other human prisoners. They probably thought it would be more entertaining to watch a trained fighter get beaten than just any random person. "Do you know who I am supposed to fight?" he asked. "A warrior from the Drakthari Empire," Yuna said. "Her name is Cressisha. The guards were laughing about it. They said she has never lost a fight. They said she has killed more than 50 opponents in the arena." Dae-ho opened his eyes and looked at Yuna. Her face was pale and scared. She was thinking the same thing he was thinking. This was not meant to be a fair fight. This was meant to be an execution disguised as entertainment. "Why are they doing this?" Yuna asked. "What do they gain from killing you?" "They want to prove something," Dae-ho said. "They want to show the other aliens that humans are weak. If a trained human soldier cannot even survive against one of their warriors, then it proves that humans deserve to be slaves." Yuna looked down at her hands. She was quiet for a long moment. When she looked up again, her eyes were wet with tears. "There has to be something we can do," she said. "Some way to help you?" "There is nothing," Dae-ho said. "The arena is designed to be fair for the aliens, not for prisoners. I will be fighting with their rules, in their space, with their weapons." "Maybe you could refuse to fight," Yuna suggested. Dae-ho shook his head. "They will just hurt other humans until I agree. They always do that. They know we care about each other, and they use that against us." Heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Yuna quickly stepped back from the cell and pretended to check something in her medical bag. A tall alien guard walked past them. He was green and scaly with yellow eyes that looked like a snake's. He glanced at Yuna but did not stop walking. When the guard was gone, Yuna came back to the cell. "I have to go," she said. "But Daiho, listen to me. You are stronger than they think. You are smarter than they think. Do not give up before the fight even starts." "I will do my best," Daiho said. "That is all I can promise." Yuna nodded and started to walk away. Then she stopped and turned back. "There are other humans working in different parts of this station. Some of them might be able to help. I will try to talk to them." After Yuna left, Daiho sat alone in his cell and thought about tomorrow. He had been in many fights during his time as a soldier. He had faced enemies who were bigger and stronger than him. He had learned that size and strength were not the only things that mattered in a fight. Speed mattered. Intelligence mattered. The will to survive mattered most of all, but this would be different. On Earth, he fought for his country and his people. He fought to protect things that were important to him. Here, he was fighting just to stay alive for one more day. That was not the same thing. Hours passed, and the lights in the prison dimmed to signal nighttime. Daiho lay down on the thin mat that served as his bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his life before the invasion. He thought about his training and his team and the battles they had won together. He thought about Earth and wondered if he would ever see it again. Tomorrow would come whether he was ready or not. Tomorrow he would face a creature that had killed 50 other fighters. Tomorrow the aliens would try to prove that humans were nothing more than weak servants who deserved to be slaves. Daiho closed his eyes and made himself a promise. Win or lose, he would show them that humans were not weak. He would fight with everything he had and make them remember his name. If he was going to die, he would die like a soldier, not like a broken prisoner. The arena was waiting for him, and he would not disappoint it. The next morning came too quickly for Daiho. Guards arrived at his cell before the usual wake-up time and dragged him out into the hallway. They did not speak to him as they walked through the prison corridors. Their heavy boots made loud echoing sounds on the metal floors. Daiho was taken to a different part of the station that he had never seen before. The walls here were cleaner and the lights were brighter. This was not the prisoner section. This was where the aliens lived and worked. The guards pushed him through several doors until they reached a large room filled with equipment and weapons. "Wait. Here," one of the guards said in broken human language. Then they left him alone. Daiho looked around the room. There were racks of strange alien weapons on the walls and pieces of armor hanging from hooks. Some of the weapons looked like guns, but with odd shapes and glowing parts. Others looked like swords and clubs, but made from materials he did not recognize. Everything in the room was built for aliens, not humans. A door on the far side of the room opened, and another human walked in. Daiho recognized him immediately. It was Taemin Lee, an engineer who had worked at the same military base on Earth. Taemin had been captured 2 weeks before Daiho and had not been seen since. "Taemin," Daiho said, "what are you doing here?" Taemin looked nervous and tired. His clothes were dirty and his hands had small cuts and burns on them. "I work here now," he said quietly. "They make me fix their machines and weapons. I am not supposed to talk to other prisoners." "Then why are you here?" Daiho asked. Taemin looked toward the door to make sure no guards were listening. "Because I heard about your fight today. I wanted to warn you about something." "What kind of warning?" "The arena," Taemin said. "I have been working on its systems for 2 months. The gravity is not normal. They can make it heavier or lighter, depending on who is fighting. They usually make it heavier for prisoners so they move slower and get tired faster." Daiho felt anger building in his chest. Of course, the fight would not be fair. The aliens never played fair when it came to humans. "How much heavier?" he asked. "Usually double," Taemin said. "Sometimes more. But there is something else. The weapons they give to prisoners are not real weapons. They are training tools designed to break easily. The alien warriors get real weapons that can cut through metal. So they want me to fight a professional killer with a fake weapon while carrying twice my normal weight," Daiho said. "That sounds about right for these aliens." "There might be a way to help," Taemin said. He pulled a small device from his pocket. It looked like a piece of broken equipment, but Daiho could see tiny lights blinking on it. "I built this from spare parts. If you can get close to the gravity controls, this device might be able to mess with them." The gravity could become normal or even lighter. "How do I get close to the controls?" Daeho asked. "They are built into the arena walls. If you can touch the wall during the fight, you just need to press this against it for 3 seconds. The device will do the rest." Daeho took the small device and hid it in his clothing. "Thank you," he said. "This might actually help." "Be careful," Taemin said. "If they catch you with that device, they will kill both of us." Before Daeho could reply, the door opened again and guards came in. One of them pointed at Daeho and barked an order in the alien language. Taemin quickly walked to the other side of the room and pretended to work on a weapon. The guards led Daeho to another room where they gave him clothing to wear for the fight. The outfit was simple and thin, more like pajamas than armor. It would not protect him from anything. They also gave him a weapon that looked like a sword, but felt too light in his hands. When he tested it against a practice target, it left only small scratches. After he was dressed, the guards took him to a waiting area near the arena. Through a small window, Daeho could see into the fighting space. It was huge and round, with tall walls that went up to stadium seating. Thousands of aliens were already filling the seats. They looked excited and were making loud noises that sounded like cheering. In the center of the arena floor, Daeho saw his opponent for the first time. Cressisha was even bigger than he had imagined. She stood at least 8 feet tall, and her body was covered in natural armor that looked like thick, gray scales. Her arms and legs were massive with muscles that rippled when she moved. At the end of her fingers were claws that looked sharp enough to cut through stone. She was testing her weapon, which appeared to be a real sword made from some kind of alien metal. When she swung it through the air, it made a whistling sound and left a bright trail of light behind it. The blade looked like it could cut a human in half without slowing down. "Impressive, is she not?" a voice said behind Daeho. He turned around and saw a tall reptilian alien with yellow skin and bright green eyes. This was clearly someone important because he wore expensive clothing and jewelry. 2 guards stood behind him. "I am Vextar," the alien said. "I run this arena. I wanted to meet the human who thinks he can fight a Drakthari warrior." "I do not think anything," Daeho replied. "I am here because you brought me here." Vextar laughed. It was an unpleasant sound, like rocks grinding together. "Honest, I like that. Most prisoners beg and cry when they see their opponent. You just stand there looking angry." "Would begging change anything?" Daeho asked. "No," Vextar said. "Nothing would change anything. This fight has one purpose: to show the Galactic Council that humans are a servant species. When Cressisha kills you in front of all these witnesses, it will prove that humans have no place among the warrior races of the galaxy." "What if I win?" Daeho asked. Vextar laughed again, louder this time. "Win? Human, Cressisha has killed 57 opponents in this arena. She has never even been injured. She is a perfect killing machine bred for war. You are a primitive creature from a backward planet. You have no chance of winning." "Then why are you worried enough to cheat?" Daeho asked. Vextar stopped laughing. His green eyes narrowed and he stepped closer to Daeho. "What did you say?" "The gravity controls, the fake weapons. If you are so sure she will win, why do you need to make the fight unfair?" For a moment, Vextar looked surprised. Then his expression changed to anger. "It does not matter what you know. In 10 minutes you will be dead and your knowledge will die with you." Vextar turned and walked away with his guards. Daeho was left alone to watch through the window as more aliens filled the arena seating. He could see important-looking creatures in special boxes high above the fighting floor. These must be the Galactic Council members that Yuna had mentioned. In one of the boxes, Daeho noticed a human woman wearing alien clothing and a translation device. She looked scared and kept looking down at papers in her hands. This was probably another prisoner who had been forced to work for the aliens. He wondered what her job was and if she knew what was about to happen. A loud sound echoed through the waiting area. It was some kind of horn or bell that meant the fight was about to start. Guards came and unlocked the door that led to the arena floor. One of them pushed Daeho forward. "Time to die, human," the guard said. Daeho walked through the door and into the arena. The noise from the crowd was incredible. Thousands of alien voices were shouting and cheering. The sound bounced off the walls and hit him like a physical force. The lights were bright and hot and made everything look harsh and unforgiving. Cressisha stood in the center of the arena waiting for him. When she saw him walking toward her, she raised her sword above her head and let out a roar that was, louder than the crowd. The sound was terrifying and alien and meant to freeze him with fear. But Daeho was not frozen. He was angry. Angry at being captured, angry at being enslaved, angry at being forced to fight for the entertainment of creatures who saw humans as nothing more than animals. He walked steadily toward the center of the arena and felt the device Taimin had given him pressing against his side. The crowd grew quieter as he approached Cressisha. They wanted to hear what would happen next. Daeho could feel the gravity getting heavier with each step. By the time he reached the center, his body felt like it weighed twice as much as normal. But he kept walking and did not let the strain show on his face. Cressisha looked down at him with yellow eyes that showed no emotion except confidence. She was so sure of her victory that she seemed almost bored. "So you are the human servant," she said in perfect human language. "I expected someone bigger." "Disappointment goes both ways," Daeho replied. Cressisha tilted her head like she was confused. "You think I am disappointing?" "I think you are scared," Daeho said. "Why else would you need rigged gravity and fake weapons to beat one small human?" The crowd gasped at his words. Cressisha's eyes flashed with anger, and her grip on her sword tightened. "I will kill you in 30 seconds, she growled. "And I will enjoy every moment of it." "We will see," Daeho said. The horn sounded again, and the fight began. The moment the horn finished sounding, Cressisha charged forward like a wild animal. Her massive legs carried her across the arena floor faster than Daeho had expected. The heavy gravity that was supposed to slow him down seemed to have no effect on her at all. She raised her glowing sword above her head and roared again as she closed the distance between them. Daeho had been in enough fights to know that the first few seconds were always the most important. Most opponents expected him to run or try to block her attack. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone in the arena, including Cressisha herself. He stepped directly toward her charge, at the last possible moment, when her sword was coming. Down toward his head, Daeho twisted his body to the right and rolled under her swing. The blade passed so close to his face that he could feel the heat from its energy field. But it did not touch him. Cressisha stumbled forward as her attack hit nothing but air. She had put all of her strength into that swing because she expected it to end the fight immediately. Now she was off balance and confused. The crowd went silent. This was not what they had come to see. The human was supposed to be crushed instantly, not dancing around their champion like he was playing a game. Daeho used Cressisha's confusion to his advantage. While she was trying to figure out where he had gone, he spun around behind her and drove his fake sword into the back of her left knee. The blade was not sharp enough to cut through her armor, but it was hard enough to hit the joint where two pieces of natural scale met. Cressisha roared in pain and anger. She spun around faster than Daeho thought possible and swung her sword in a wide arc that would have cut him in half if it had connected. But Daeho was already moving. The heavy gravity made him slower than normal, but his training had taught him to fight in all kinds of difficult conditions. 10 seconds had passed. Cressisha was no longer playing with him. Her yellow eyes were focused and dangerous. She began a series of attacks that showed why she had never lost a fight. Her sword moved like lightning, cutting through the air in patterns that gave Daeho nowhere to run. But Daeho was not trying to run anymore. He was studying her movements and looking for weaknesses. Every fighter had them, even ones as skilled as Cressisha. She was strong and fast, but she was also angry now. Angry fighters made mistakes. He blocked one of her strikes with his fake sword and felt the weapon crack under the impact. The blade would not last much longer against her real weapon. He needed to get to the arena wall soon, or Taimin's device would not matter. Cressisha pressed her attack, driving Daeho backward toward the edge of the arena. Her sword whistled through the air as she swung it in combinations that were almost too fast to follow. One strike came so close that it cut through the fabric of his shirt and left a thin line of blood across his chest. The crowd was cheering again. They could see that their champion was regaining control of the fight. Some of them were calling out suggestions for how she should kill the human. 15 seconds had passed. Daeho's back touched the arena wall. This was exactly where he wanted to be, but Cressisha did not know that. She thought she had trapped him. She raised her sword for what she believed would be the killing blow. "Time to die, human servant," she snarled. As her sword came down, Daeho pulled Taemin's device from his clothing and pressed it against the wall behind him. At the same time, he threw himself to the side to avoid her strike. The device beeped, quietly 3 times, and then went silent. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. Cressisha's sword hit the wall where Daeho had been standing and sent sparks flying in all directions. She pulled the blade free and turned to find him again. Then the gravity changed. It happened so suddenly that everyone in the arena could feel it. The heavy weight that had been pressing down on everything became normal again. For aliens who were used to the artificial gravity, this felt strange and uncomfortable. But for Daeho, it felt like someone had just removed chains from his arms and legs. Cressisha stumbled as the gravity shift affected her balance. She had been compensating for the heavier gravity, and now she was moving too fast for the normal gravity. Daeho saw his chance and took it. He moved faster than he had been able to move since the fight started. His fake sword was almost broken, but he still had his fists and his training. He came at Cressisha from her blind side and hit her in the ribs with an elbow strike that would have broken bones in a human. Cressisha's armor protected her from serious damage, but the impact was still strong enough to knock the air from her lungs. She swung wildly with her sword, but Daeho was no longer where she expected him to be. 20 seconds had passed. The crowd was starting to murmur with confusion and worry. Their unbeatable champion was being outfought by a creature they had been told was weak and primitive. Some of the aliens in the expensive seats were standing up to get a better view. Daeho pressed his advantage. He grabbed Cressisha's sword arm with both hands and used his weight to pull her off balance. When she tried to shake him off, he used her own momentum against her and sent her crashing to the arena floor. Cressisha rolled away and came up swinging, but Daeho was ready for her. He caught her wrist as she attacked and twisted her arm until she was forced to drop her sword. The weapon clattered across the arena floor and came to rest near the opposite wall. Now they were both unarmed, but Cressisha still had her natural weapons. Her claws were razor-sharp, and her teeth looked like they could bite through metal. She swiped at Daeho's face with her claws and barely missed taking his eye out. But Daeho had fought hand-to-hand combat against many different kinds of enemies. He knew how to deal with claws and teeth. He grabbed Cressisha's wrist and used a joint lock that he had learned in military training. The technique worked even on alien anatomy. Cressisha tried to bite him, but Daeho wrapped his arm around her neck from behind and put her in a chokehold. She was bigger and stronger than him, but he had better position and better technique. 25 seconds had passed. The arena was almost completely quiet now. Even the important aliens in their special boxes were leaning forward to watch. This was not supposed to be happening. A human servant was defeating their greatest warrior. Cressisha struggled desperately to escape from the chokehold, but Daeho held on tight. His fake sword had finally broken completely, and the pieces lay scattered on the arena floor. All he had left was his training and his determination to prove that humans were not weak. Cressisha's struggles were getting weaker. The chokehold was cutting off blood flow to her brain, and she was starting to lose consciousness. She made one last desperate attempt to throw Daeho off, but he adjusted his grip and held on. Her yellow eyes began to close, and her massive body went limp. Daeho held the chokehold for 3 more seconds to make sure she was completely unconscious. Then he released her and stepped back. Cressisha collapsed to the arena floor and did not move. She was still breathing, but she was completely unconscious. The fight was over. 30 seconds had passed. The arena was silent except for the sound of Daeho's heavy breathing. He stood over the fallen warrior and looked up at the thousands of aliens who had come to watch him die. Their faces showed shock and disbelief, and something that might have been fear. In the special boxes, the important aliens were talking to each other in urgent whispers. The human woman with the translation device was staring down at the arena floor with her mouth open. Daeho walked over to where Cressisha's sword lay on the ground. He picked it up and tested its weight. The weapon was perfectly balanced and still glowing with energy. He turned back toward the unconscious warrior and then looked up at the crowd again. "Still think humans are servants?" he called out in a voice that carried across the entire arena. The response was more silence. No one seemed to know what to say or do. The unthinkable had happened. Their perfect warrior had been defeated by a primitive human in 30 seconds. Guards began pouring onto the arena floor from several different doors. They moved carefully and kept their weapons pointed at Daeho. They were not sure if he was still a prisoner or if he had become something else entirely. Daeho dropped the sword and raised his hands to show that he was not going to fight the guards. The fight with Kresisha was over, and he had made his point. But as the guards surrounded him, he could see that something had changed in the arena. The aliens were looking at him differently now. They were no longer seeing a weak creature to be used and discarded. They were seeing something that had just challenged everything they believed about humans and about themselves. The 30-second war was finished, but Daeho had a feeling that a much bigger war was just beginning. The guards dragged Daeho back to his cell, but this time they did not throw him inside and lock the door. Instead, they stood outside and watched him carefully. Their weapons were still drawn and their eyes never left him. Something had changed, and everyone could feel it. Daeho sat on his thin mat and tried to process what had just happened. 30 seconds ago, he had been a prisoner waiting to die. Now he was something else entirely. He could see it in the way the guards looked at him. He was no longer just another human slave. He was a problem that no one knew how to solve. Within an hour, other prisoners began appearing in the hallway, outside his cell. They walked past slowly and tried to catch glimpses of him through the bars. Word was spreading quickly through the prison sections. The human had defeated the unbeatable alien warrior. The impossible had become possible. Yuna arrived at his cell carrying her medical bag. The guards let her approach because they thought she was there to treat his injuries. But Daeho had no serious injuries. Just a few scratches and bruises that would heal on their own. "The whole station is talking about what you did," Yuna whispered as she pretended to examine his wounds. "The aliens are having emergency meetings. Some of them are scared." "Scared of what?" Daeho asked quietly. "Scared of what it means," Yuna replied. "If one human can defeat their best warrior, what does that say about everything they believe? What does it say about their right to rule over us?" Through the prison walls, they could hear the sound of raised voices and rapid footsteps. The alien staff was clearly upset about something. Normal prison operations seemed to have stopped entirely. "There is something else," Yuna said. "The fight was broadcast live to other prison stations across the galaxy. Humans on dozens of worlds saw what you did. They saw that we are not weak." Daeho felt a mixture of pride and worry. He was glad that other humans had seen the fight, but he was concerned about what the aliens might do in response. If they felt threatened, they might decide to make examples of human prisoners on other worlds. "Have there been any reactions from the other stations?" he asked. "Reports are still coming in," Yuna said, "but I heard that human workers on the mining station near Rigel refused to report for their shifts this morning. They are demanding better treatment and representation in station decisions." A guard approached the cell and barked something at Yuna in the alien language. She quickly packed up her medical supplies and prepared to leave. "Be careful," she whispered to Daeho. "I think they are planning something. The station commander has been sending messages to the Galactic Council headquarters." After Yuna left, Daeho was alone with his thoughts again. He could hear more activity in the hallways outside the prison section. Guards were moving in groups, and their voices sounded urgent and worried. Several hours later, Taemin appeared, outside the cell. He was escorted by 2 guards who watched him closely. He was carrying a toolkit and pretended to be checking something on the cell's locking mechanism. "The gravity device worked perfectly," Taemin whispered as he worked. "But they know someone helped you. They are interrogating all the human workers who had access to arena systems." "Will they trace it back to you?" Daeho asked. "Maybe," Taemin said. "I destroyed most of the evidence, but they are very thorough when they want to be." One of the guards stepped closer and said something sharp in the alien language. Taemin nodded and continued working on the lock. "There is something you should know," Taemin said, even more quietly. "The fight has been shown on news broadcasts across the galaxy. Not just to human prisoners, but to everyone. Some of the other conquered species are starting to ask questions about their own situations." This was bigger than Daeho had expected. He had wanted to prove that humans were not weak, but he had not intended to start a galactic revolution. "What kind of questions?" he asked. If humans can defeat Drakthari warriors, why are the Drakthari ruling over the Centauri colonies? Tai Min said, if the Coalition has been wrong about human capabilities, what else have they been wrong about? The guards decided that Tai Min had spent enough time working on the lock. They escorted him away, but not before he gave Dae-ho a meaningful look. The engineer had done more than just help with the gravity controls. He had helped create a moment that was changing the galaxy. As night fell on the station, Dae-ho could hear unusual sounds from other parts of the prison. Human voices were talking in excited whispers. Guards were moving more frequently through the corridors. Something was building and everyone could sense it. Late that night, a new visitor appeared at Dae-ho's cell. It was the human woman he had seen in the arena translation booth. She was still wearing alien clothing, but now she looked determined instead of scared. "My name is Mi-rae Choi," she said in Korean. "I work as a translator for the station administration. I wanted to thank you for what you did today." "Thank me for what?" Dae-ho asked. "For showing them that we are not what they think we are," Mi-rae replied. "I have been forced to translate their conversations about humans for months. They talk about us like we are animals. Today you proved them wrong." Mi-rae looked around to make sure no guards were listening. "I have access to communication systems because of my job. I have been secretly recording evidence of how they treat human prisoners. I was waiting for the right moment to use that evidence." "Is this the right moment?" Dae-ho asked. "Yes," Mi-rae said. "Your fight has created chaos in their command structure. Some aliens are demanding investigations into human capabilities. Others are calling for harsher treatment to prevent uprising. The Coalition is splitting into different factions." She pulled a small device from her clothing and showed it to Dae-ho. "This contains recordings of their conversations about human experiments, forced labor conditions, and execution orders. If this information reaches the right people, it could change everything." "What do you need from me?" Dae-ho asked. "Nothing," Mi-rae said. "You have already done the hardest part. You showed the galaxy that humans are not weak. Now others can build on what you started." Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Mi-rae quickly hid the device. A guard appeared and gestured for her to follow him. Before she left, she looked back at Dae-ho one more time. "There are more of us than they realize," she said. "Humans in positions throughout this station and others. We have been waiting and preparing. Your victory gave us the signal we needed." After Mi-rae left, Dae-ho finally understood the full scope of what had happened. His 30-second fight had not just defeated one warrior, it had shattered the foundation of lies that the alien coalition used to justify their treatment of humans and other conquered species. The next morning brought even more changes. Instead of the usual work detail assignments, human prisoners were kept in their cells. Guards patrolled in larger groups and carried heavier weapons. The station felt like it was under military alert. Through his small cell window, Dae-ho could see alien ships arriving at the station docking bays. These were not cargo vessels or regular transports. They were warships with weapons visible on their hulls. The Galactic Council was taking the situation seriously. Yuna managed to visit him again during the medical rounds. Her face was excited and hopeful for the first time since he had known her. "It is working," she whispered. "Human populations on 17 different worlds have stopped reporting for forced labor. 3 alien governors have requested military support to maintain order. The Coalition is sending investigation teams to reassess human capabilities." "What about retaliation?" Dae-ho asked. "Are they hurting humans in response?" "Some places," Yuna admitted. "But not as much as we feared. They are too confused and divided to organize effective retaliation. Your fight exposed something they were not prepared for." As Yuna continued her examination, she leaned closer to his ear. "There is going to be a meeting. Representatives from the Galactic Council want to interview you directly. They want to understand how you were able to defeat Cressisha." "When?" Dae-ho asked. "Soon," Yuna said. "Maybe today. They are treating this as a matter of galactic security. Now, one human defeating one warrior should not have been enough to threaten their entire system of control, but it was." After Yuna left, Dae-ho sat quietly and thought about the meeting to come. He had been a soldier and a prisoner, but now he was about to become something entirely different. He was about to become the voice of humanity in a conversation. That would determine the future of his entire species. The 30 seconds in the arena had been just the beginning. Now the real fight was about to start. 3 days after the fight, guards came to take Daeho from his cell. But this time they did not drag him or point weapons at him. They asked him to come with them in careful, respectful language. Everything had changed, and even the guards could feel it. They escorted him through parts of the station he had never seen before. These areas were clearly designed for important meetings and diplomatic functions. The walls were decorated with symbols from different alien cultures, and the lighting was soft and comfortable rather than harsh and industrial. Daeho was taken to a large conference room where several aliens were already waiting. These were not guards or prison administrators. These were clearly high-ranking officials from different parts of the galaxy. Their clothing was expensive, and they carried themselves with the confidence of people who were used to making important decisions. At the head of the table sat an alien that Daeho had not seen before. It had blue skin and silver eyes and wore robes that sparkled with embedded technology. When it spoke, its voice was translated into perfect human language by a device around its neck. "I am Counselor Veltar of the Ashanti Federation," the alien said. "We represent the neutral worlds in the Galactic Council. We have come to speak with you about recent events." Daeho sat down in a chair that had been adjusted for human size. Around the table were representatives from at least 6 different alien species. Some looked familiar from news broadcasts he had seen on Earth. Others were completely new to him. "Before we begin," Counselor Veltar continued, "I want you to know that your legal status has changed. You are no longer classified as a prisoner or forced laborer. You are now considered a diplomatic representative of the human species." This was not what Daeho had expected. "I did not ask to be a diplomat," he said. "Nevertheless, that is what you have become," Veltar replied. "Your actions in the arena have forced us to reconsider our understanding of human capabilities and rights. We need to have this conversation officially." Another alien at the table leaned forward. This one had green scales and reminded Daeho of Vextar from the arena, but its manner was much more professional and respectful. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Hegemony Defense Forces," it said. "Our military analysts have studied recordings of your fight with Cressisha. We need to understand how you were able to defeat a trained Drakthari warrior." "I used better tactics," Daeho said simply. "That is not a sufficient explanation," Zethkar replied. "Cressisha was genetically enhanced for combat. She had superior strength, speed, and natural weapons. According to all our data, you should not have been able to survive 30 seconds against her." Daeho looked around the table at the alien faces watching him. "Your data was wrong," he said. "You assumed that bigger and stronger always wins. You assumed that natural weapons are better than trained skills. You assumed that humans fight the same way your species fight." Counselor Veltar made notes on a device in front of him. "Please explain what you mean by that." "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years," Daeho said. "We had to develop tactics that work against opponents who are bigger, stronger, or better armed than us. We learned to use intelligence instead of just force. We learned to adapt to any situation. But you are fighting under artificial gravity and with inferior weapons," another alien pointed out. "How did you overcome those disadvantages?" Daeho decided not to mention Tae-Min's device. His friend was probably still being interrogated and did not need additional problems. "I used what was available," he said. "The gravity affected her too when it changed. The weapon quality did not matter once the fight became hand-to-hand combat." The aliens exchanged glances. They were clearly not getting the answers they had hoped for. "There is a larger issue we need to discuss," Veltar said. "Your victory has caused unrest throughout the Coalition territories. Human populations are refusing work assignments and demanding better treatment. Some of our member worlds are requesting military intervention to maintain order. Is that my fault?" Daeho asked. "That depends on your intentions," Veltar replied. "Did you plan to start a rebellion when you entered that arena?" "I plan to survive," Daeho said. "I plan to prove that humans are not weak. If that caused problems for your coalition, maybe you should examine why your system depends on people believing lies about my species." The room was quiet for several minutes. The aliens seemed to be having a silent conversation through devices that Daeho could not see. Finally, Veltar spoke again. "We need to find a solution that addresses the current crisis while maintaining stability in our territories. We are prepared to discuss changes to human legal status and living conditions. What kind of changes? Deho asked. Recognition of humans as a sentient species with rights under galactic law, Veltar said. Establishment of human colonies with self-governance. Compensation for forced labor and damages from the invasion of Earth. These were significant concessions, but Deho was suspicious. What do you want in return? Cooperation in ending the war. Current unrest, Commander Zethkar said. Your people will listen to you now. If you tell them to return to work and accept the new arrangements, they will do it. And if I refuse? Deho asked. Then we will be forced to restore order through other means, Zethkar said. Military intervention is still an option. Before Deho could respond, the conference room door opened, and several more people entered. To his surprise, 3 of them were human. One was Yuna, still wearing her medical clothing. Another was Tai Min, who looked tired but unharmed. The third was a woman he did not recognize. This is Hyun Kim, Veltar said. She was discovered working in our civilian population registry. It appears she has been documenting human populations and conditions throughout our territories. Hyun stepped forward, and Deho could see the family resemblance immediately. She had the same determined expression that he saw in mirrors. Hello, brother, Hyun said in Korean. Deho felt emotions that he had been suppressing for months. Hyun had been presumed dead after the invasion of Earth. He had not allowed himself to hope that she might have survived. How? He asked. I was at a diplomatic conference on Centauri Prime when Earth was invaded, Hyun explained. I managed to avoid capture by hiding among refugees from other conquered worlds. I have been gathering information and waiting for an opportunity to help our people. She placed a data device on the conference table. This contains detailed records of human populations, forced labor conditions, and violations of galactic law committed by coalition forces. I was preparing to present this evidence to neutral worlds when my brother decided to fight a Drakthari warrior on live broadcast. Veltar looked at the device with obvious concern. What do you want for this information? The same thing my brother wants, Hyun said. Recognition of human rights and an end to forced labor. But we also want something else. We want to establish a human embassy on this station. An embassy? Zethkar asked. Humans are scattered across dozens of worlds. Now, Hyun explained. We need a central location where our people can receive assistance and representation. This station is already a major hub for galactic trade and diplomacy. Tae-min stepped forward and placed his own device on the table. I can provide technical assistance in establishing the embassy facilities, he said. I understand the station. Systems better than anyone, Yuna also contributed. I can organize medical and social services for human populations throughout the region, she said. Deho looked at his sister and friends and realized that they had been planning this moment for much longer than he had understood. His fight in the arena had not started the revolution. It had simply provided the catalyst that allowed existing plans to move forward. We accept your proposal, Veltar said after consulting with the other council members. Human embassy status will be granted and you will be recognized as official representatives of your species. There is one more thing, Hyun said. We want Mi-Ray Choi to be appointed as head of embassy communications. She has been working within your systems and understands how to navigate galactic bureaucracy. As if summoned by her name, Mi-Ray entered the conference room carrying official documents. The paperwork is already prepared, she said with a smile. Over the following hours, the details were worked out. The human embassy would occupy an entire section of the station. Human populations throughout coalition territory would be granted legal representation and protection. Forced labor would be replaced with voluntary work contracts that included fair wages and living conditions. Most importantly, humanity would have a voice in galactic affairs for the first time since the invasion of Earth. As the meeting concluded, Deho found himself standing in what would soon become the main embassy office. Through the large windows, he could see human technicians already beginning to modify the space for their needs. Hyun joined him at the window. 30 seconds, she said. That is all it took to change everything. I did not do this alone, Deho replied. All of you were working toward this moment. But you were the one who had to step into that arena, Hyun said. You were the one who had to prove that humans are not servants. Deho watched as the first human ship in months approached the station docking bay. It was painted with Earth colors and carried official diplomatic markings.